Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Happy Friday! Not just any Friday, it's Friday before a holiday weekend. Does it get any better than that?
Nah, man. It's a beautiful weekend, man.
I'm
ready for it.
Beautiful weather out there today. It's going to rain a little bit tomorrow morning, clear up. Looks like it might rain a little bit on Memorial Day, but whatever you're doing, don't forget the reason we celebrate Memorial Day. We celebrate Memorial Day for all of the men and women who have given their life so that we can live the way we do. And if you cherish that way of life, just take a little bit of time on Monday and think about those that have gone before us in the fight for freedom.
My dad is buried at Lakeview Cemetery.
Yeah.
And every year for Memorial Day and Veterans Day, Lakeview Cemetery have like something out there. So
That's great.
I try to attend as much as I can.
Very good. So again, thank you for all those that have served, both presently and in the past. A lot of sports going on. We're going to get to all of it. We've got Cavs, we've got Browns, we've got Guardians. The much-anticipated announcement finally came yesterday. I have a couple of questions around it. Boy, if anybody saw Jim Donovan yesterday on 3 News at 5 or 3 News at 6, wow.
I didn't. I was listening to the radio this morning.
Woo!
A caller called in and said Jim he went in.
He went in hard on the Cavaliers.
What'd he say? I missed that.
Well, the biggest part of his – I think the argument aside that should he stay or should he go, the way it happened. 8 days, they let him hang in the wind. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. And I think Jimmy's also his big underlying message, too, was you've given all the power to the players. But it's been that way.
It's been that way for a while.
It's a players' league for sure. But he wasn't really good with the fact that a superstar who has won nothing and who has not committed to this organization long term made the coaching decision. Because if you believe all these reports, it's tied to Donovan Mitchell. His fingerprints are all over it. And by the way, I'm not sure he should. If I'm Donovan Mitchell and I'm looking at how this thing unfolded, I am very unhappy that the organization rolled on me. Because this only gets out one way. People within the organization leak it. And if I'm Donovan Mitchell and I'm making a career decision, should I stay or should I go? I'm not thrilled right now that they didn't protect him. His fingerprints are all over this move.
It definitely looks like this was a decision made based on whatever it is Donovan Mitchell might have presumed to have wanted. You know, because we could look at this a day later and say, okay, well.
What if he leaves, though?
This is how I look at it, Jay. There's no way in hell that they fired JB Bickerstaff if Donovan Mitchell wanted him to be the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
No.
Right?
But, that's a slippery slope, and that's probably what we'll get into much more later. It's a slippery slope because if you want to empower the player to make that decision, that comes with a price. Sign the paper. We do what you want. But you may end up playing a game of chicken that – one thing that resonated with me all day yesterday, I wish Jason was here, because Jason always is he's the voice of reason. We sometimes are emotional,
right,
and we want coaches fired and hired and all this nonsense.
Us three sometimes?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're a volatile group.
Most times.
What's the derivative of fanatic?
Yeah, that's us.
So, I mean, fan is, that's the whole, we're fanatical.
Yeah,
and
we are.
Fanatical decisions sometimes are emotional and not necessarily in sound judgment. Jason sits from a different perspective, not a fan, a journalist, and he constantly says something about Andrew Berry that I'm now starting to repeat. The longer you do a job, the better you get at it. Mike, are you better now than you were 1 year into the job?
100%.
Hell yeah.
I know you are.
Hell yeah.
You already know what it is.
And I hope to get better every day. I bring that up because to fire a coach is a two-pronged decision. Who are you going to bring in that is definitively better?
See, I feel like,
that was also part of Jimmy's rant.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit because I've heard that the whole time. A lot of times, I'm gonna give you a perfect analogy once your show gets to start, and about why that don't really.
All right, we look
like
forward to that. A lot to get into with the Cavs thing. I just thought if you haven't seen it and you want to check it out, go see Jimmy's rant, because I was of the mindset that he should be fired. But after I listened to Jimmy, there's a way to do things, and I don't think they did it the right way, number one. And number two, he made a lot of salient points that made me wonder, well, do we know that we're going to come out on the other side better? Do we know that? And the answer is definitively no, we don't. We don't know who's coming in. Jimmy mentioned the two guys that are rumored to get the job have had no playoff success. Zero. So there's that. And again, and we'll talk about this with Kobe, Jason always says about Andrew Barry, there is value in continuity and staying with the same message, because the longer you do a job, the better you get. And if you want proof of that, look at Bill Belichick. Okay.
We're going to do a read. We're going to start with Kobe, who's speaking to the media in about 5 minutes, and we'll get Jason on to give us some live reaction to that later. We'll talk a little more about JB and your guys' thoughts on JB, the report that came out this morning from Marcus Morris, who gave us some insight on how some of the players felt about JB Bickerstaff to the staff, and our second Cavs topic when we talk about the next domino to fall. But we start today with the moment to remind everyone today's show is brought to us by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to spend on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And today's winning ticket comes from our guy, Rakistan1187, who won $715 on a $10 8-leg same-game parlay from Game 1 of the Celtics-Pacers overtime thriller. He hit the over on Nesmith, McConnell, Siakam, and Halliburton. Their alternate points, $10 turned into $715. Big-time win for Rakistan1187. If you have a winning ticket, as always, make sure you guys send it in to us.
That's a nice one.
It's a great one. Jay, we'll get back to the JB stuff in a sec, but we got to start with Koby Altman because he is speaking to the media here. He's about to get underway in about 3 minutes. So I figured we know JB's out, and it appears Koby Altman will be safe because he's speaking to the media today, and if he was out as well,
they wouldn't put him out there if they were going to fire him.
That'd be a weird situation. But my question is, should Koby be safe? Has he earned the right to keep his job as general manager, director of basketball operations, whatever title you want to actually give him? So I went back, and on Monday, Earl asked to go through and look at all his moves so we can kind of have a better context of what Kobe's done since he's taken over the Cavs franchise in 2017. And I tried to simplify these. Pro Basketball Reference breaks them up year by year, not season by season. So it's 2017, 2018, 2019. Some of these interchange seasons, but this is the simplified version of what Koby Altman's done. If you want more explanation on any of these moves, just ask. I'll give you the exact details. But in 2017, when he took over, the big thing he did was he traded for Kyrie Irving. That was traded away Kyrie Irving. He got Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Colin Sexton back in that deal. He also signed Kyle Korver.
That's written wrong.
Yeah, I wrote that wrong. He also traded for signed Kyle Korver, Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Kendrick Perkins, and Jetty Osman. In 2018, he used that first-round pick he got for Kyrie Irving to draft Colin Sexton. He also signed Channing Frye, Larry Nance Jr. He re-signed Kevin Love. He traded for George Hill and Rodney Hood. He also traded for Matthew Dellavedova and John Henson. That same season, in 2018, he fired Ty Lue. In 2019, 1 year after trading for Rodney Hood, he traded away Rodney Hood. He also traded Alec Burks and Jordan Clarkson. He traded and then signed Kevin Porter Jr. He drafted Darius Garland. He fired Larry Drew II, who was the interim head coach. He hired John Beilein that season. In 2020, he traded for Andre Drummond. He traded for JaVale McGee. He signed Lamar Stevens, drafted Isaac Okoro, and promoted JB Bickerstaff after John Beilein was let go. In 2021, he traded for Jarrett Allen. He traded for Ricky Rubio. He traded for Isaiah Hartenstein. He traded for Laurie Marketing. He drafted Evan Mobley. Pretty impressive 2021 campaign.
That was a snapshot
for Evan Mobley.
That's the peak of his
Koby Altman.
moves.
All 5 of those trades. Now it didn't all pan out, but those are 5 good players you acquired in that 2021 year. In 2022, he traded for Rajon Rondo. He traded Rubio for LeVert and then re-signed Ricky Rubio in free agency. He also made the Donovan Mitchell trade. He gave up Laurie Marketing, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, and 5 years of draft control in the draft, giving their first-round picks and/or pick swaps to the Utah Jazz. In 2023, bunch of free agent signings. He signed Danny Green and Sam Merrill. Then this offseason, he signed George Niang, Ty Jerome, Tristan Thompson. He executed a sign-and-trade for Max Strus. He drafted Amani Bates. And through the early portions of 2024, he signed Marcus Morris, who we mentioned a little earlier. He also fired JB Bickerstaff. So that's a quick snapshot of some of the moves that Koby Altman has executed throughout his tenure as general manager / director of basketball operations. Yeah. Earl, I'll start with you. We go around, however you guys want to
that's good.
Execute this, but has Koby Altman done enough to keep his job, essentially? He is safe, but has he earned the right to be safe?
You know, when we all were on this panel together Monday, and Mike asked this question of, do we believe both should go or how we think it would play out? I said at the time, I think both should be fired, but I think Koby would be safe and JB would end up being gone. I'm kind of changing my tune a little bit because when I look at overall as Koby Altman, as the GM, he has done more than enough to put the Cleveland Cavaliers in a position to have success. You think about it, he took over this team as GM the same year that LeBron bolted for LA. And since then, the Cavaliers have drastically improved every single year, if we want to be technical about the whole situation. I can look at this and say, I think that he does a good job of knowing how to evaluate talent, but I do question if he knows how to evaluate, I guess, character, or the measure of somebody's heart, or the measure of somebody's will to win. Like those unwritten intangibles, right?
Character has never been a problem with Koby Altman.
Well, maybe character.
I mean, with the exception of Amani Bates, I can't think of anybody else.
Well, Kevin Porter Jr.
That even Kevin
Porter Jr.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
Because you traded a bunch of second-round picks. You gave up $5 million in cash for a guy that you knew was a head case.
Yeah.
That you really didn't have the infrastructure at the said time to develop him and mature him as a player.
Right.
And then you end up basically kicking him to the curb and moving on. So there has been a few things with the character part of things, but
very few.
But I think 2021 was his peak. I scratched my head at 2020 because if you look, hindsight is always 2020, right? But you go back in that draft. I think that's the same draft. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Had Halliburton and Maxey in it. The Okoro draft.
Isaac Okoro, correct?
Right.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so when I look at Isaac Okoro, I think Isaac Okoro works hard as a basketball player. Mm-hmm. We've always heard the stories: first one in, last person out, right? I think the dude is committed to being good, but I question if that was the right move. Did you do right in assessing, say, a player, knowing those other guys that was on the board, right? The Drummond trade. Now, as a fan, you get Drummond here. Okay, that's a nice piece. That's a nice move. But Drummond came with that contract that you was not able to move, and you ended up buying him out. So you really got no return on investment for that piece right there.
That was a tough one.
So when I just look at it, I think the thing that puts me over the ledge as yes is the Donovan Mitchell trade. Because Donovan Mitchell's career got better once he got to Cleveland. The Cavaliers won 99 games the last 2 years with Donovan Mitchell as a core part.
Only 4 teams have won more.
And only 4 teams have won more than that. So when I look at that move alone, and my gut feels like Donovan Mitchell is going to sign here long term, that's what put me over the ledge of saying, yes, he deserves to stay.
Now, did you have the Garland max contract on there? Maybe I just missed it.
Not technically. I didn't put it on there, but yeah, they re-signed him to a max extension.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I thought was missing from your list that I would have pointed out.
That's fair.
Because ultimately, that's going to be an albatross around this franchise's neck. It already is. He's saying, reportedly, that if Donovan Mitchell gets his extension, that he's going to ask to be traded. Mm-hmm. Good luck. Good luck. That's a tough one. Now, I know at the time it seems now in retrospect, it seems more like a move of desperation.
They didn't have a choice. We talked about it with Evan Mobley earlier.
They didn't have a choice.
Handcuffed with those situations.
I mean, it was a tough spot, but I think I know where you are, so I'm going to jump in too. I think I do. I hope I'm not wrong. I'm trying to read your facial expressions here. I think you want him to be shown the door too. So I'm actually going to jump on and piggyback what you said because I agree. Earlier in the week on Monday, I said Koby will survive. I'm not sure he should.
Right.
The fan part of me has cooled down. I've done more research. I've gone back and I've looked at everything. And more importantly, I've also looked at one very important rule that every team owner and general manager has to understand, know thyself. Here's what that means. You're not Boston. You're not LA. Mm-hmm. You don't have the luxury of changing coaches and general managers every time the wind blows the wrong direction. Cavs have tried that. Not much success. I bring that up because if you don't know thyself and you don't know the draw that is Cleveland, Ohio in the National Basketball Association, you're going to make a fatal flaw in moving on from guys too soon before you have replacements that are definitively better. You're not going to go out and steal Brad Stevens away from the Celtics if you fire Koby Altman. You're not. So you have to understand who is going to consider coming to Cleveland and who is not. Who are the two leading candidates to become the coach?
Guys
and let's list their playoff accomplishments, shall we?
Borrego has never made the playoffs. Kenny
Correct.
Atkinson made it once and was bounced in the first round.
So there you go. Know thyself. So Jimmy's voice yesterday was really powerful. By the way, I've heard from others who have reached out to me and said, damn, Jimmy came at this in a whole different way. I didn't see it. That's what bright minds do. That's what Jimmy Donovan has made a career of doing. Mm-hmm. He laid this thing out there in such a way where even me, who on Monday was like, he's got to go. He's 6-11 in the playoffs. Jimmy mentioned the fact that, yeah, he's 6-11. He played the last two games without his best player in the entire series, without Jarrett Allen. So do you, when you're doing the autopsy at the end of the year, do you weigh that and take that into account? If they bring in a clearly better head coach, I'm cool with that. But we're giving this, most likely, we're giving this operation to coaches that have had chances already and didn't light the world on fire. So it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And I would flip that and make that same argument with Koby Altman. I think, in retrospect, in examining Koby's entire body of work, he's made some really nice moves and decisions to get this team where it is. I think Koby has he's done enough to deserve the right to stay at least another year. Now, we point out the moves that he made last year didn't work. Should he have known that Max Strus was not going to be able to play the same role in this offense that he played in Miami? Probably. Was that a lost in translation problem between Koby and JB? Maybe. But one way or another, he was miscast here. So we didn't get the same guy that we saw in Miami. What the hell happened to George Niang? Does anybody know?
No. Jay, I know you want to get in here.
I don't know. So, yeah, Jay, I'll pass it to you. But if I'm – and the other thing is, how many of those moves were Dan-driven? And how many of those moves were Kobe moves?
The Kevin Love contract was damn sure Dan.
1,000%.
That was him.
That one wasn't. By the way, a lot of those moves were made at a time when Dan was still in the nitty-gritty and in the weeds of the day-to-day. We know the last few years he hasn't been.
The one in particular on that list is the John Beilein hiring.
100%. That was Dan Gilbert.
Hire. That wasn't Kobe.
He's a Michigan guy. Yeah. And Dan thought, what blows my mind about Dan is, and this happens sometimes with rich people when they're out of their lane, Dan's made so many brilliant decisions in business, but a lot of times these rich businessmen make the mistake of thinking, Jerry Jones, hey, I made it work in the business world, in the oil sector. I can do it here. No, you can't. There are also experts that are in this field. Lean on them. The David Blatt and the John Beilein hires alone will be forever blemishes on Dan Gilbert's resume. So I can't blame Koby for that. And the other moves, I don't know. I don't have the intricate workings of how those moves were made. But if I'm casting my vote and there's a room full of 9 people, I'm giving Koby another year.
Well, everybody says some, nice things. And I think, when you laid out the case, there are some things that you can look at and say, okay, well, I like what Koby did here, and there, but there's some drastic errors that you have on that list. First and foremost, he can't run away from the Kyrie Irving situation. Kyrie Irving is right now in the NBA Finals.
Well, that's because of Kyrie.
Kyrie
wanted out.
Here's the thing. LeBron James told him, don't trade him. He said, let me talk to him. Don't trade him.
How does that work out?
Hey, they traded him.
No, but I know, but how has it worked out in the past when NBA teams have kept players that didn't want to be there?
Well,
it's a players' league.
Well, listen, you can say that, but what did he get in return for Kyrie Irving? A broke-down Isaiah Thomas? What else he get in that trade?
He got a draft
Isaiah
pick
Thomas
that turned into Colin Sexton.
And Jay Crowder.
And Jay Crowder.
That's freaking horrible. That's terrible. You got rid of Jay Crowder.
Isn't that more of an indication of the market for Kyrie at that time?
No.
I don't think so either, because I remember at said time I was like, you got to at least come away with Jaylen Brown. Because I felt like Tatum, Brown, and Kyrie were all on the same level as
Well,
as
that was the non-starter for the Celtics.
Well, then you should have stopped for a different team.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
that's the deal.
Maybe.
That deal right there signaled the end of what we was doing as far as competing. Also, LeBron James came out and said during that time period, I want you to trade that 8th pick. I need to get somebody else on this team. We need somebody else. You know what they did? They didn't do it. They said, nope, we got this pick. The Nets end up playing better than we thought they did. That pick turned into Colin Sexton. We had him for 2 years, and then we shipped him. So you really got nothing for it, basically. So you got rid of Colin Sexton. You go look at that. You give him credit for Hartenstein, but you traded Hartenstein. He turns into a piece in New York and beats the brakes off you and Jarrett Allen. He has all these deals where the Isaac Okoro deal. You got perennial. These are all NBA type guys in Halliburton and Maxey. You got Okoro. And then when you get him at number 5, he never becomes better than anything but a role player. You got Niang and Strus. Guess what? What they are. Like, you brought Strus here when you saw how they used him, and you used him totally differently. My problem.
Do you blame JB for that, or is that should Kobe have known that he just wasn't going to be able to do here what he did there?
All the above, letter D. Like, I'm looking at all of them. And when it goes, and when you look at this situation, this is the thing I always get and I said I was going to push back on this. When people say this is the biggest cop-out in the world. Well, I'm not going to move away from that until I figure out if I got something guaranteed on the other side that's better. That ain't how life works, boys and girls. Do you stay in relationships where you know it's bad? I've been in one. Horrible. Fighting, arguing, don't like each other, come back to the house, look at each other.
Yeah, but
hold on. Do I say, you know what? I'm going to stay in this bad relationship because I don't have a new girlfriend yet that I could just trade and be better than that. No, what you say is, this ain't what it's going to be. This ain't the path that I want to take to be successful in life.
Can I tell you why that doesn't work?
Why don't it?
Because when you leave a bad relationship, being alone is an option.
Yes.
Being alone here without a GM or a coach is not an option.
But here's the thing.
We have to replace the coach.
But here's the thing. When I could go, and you got to have faith in your organization to have a plan set forward to know what is a good coach for your future or a bad coach. And just because you haven't come up with no game plan doesn't mean that you don't move on from something bad.
So wing it. Make it up as you go along.
No, I ain't talking about winging it. I'm talking about understanding it. A plan. The reason I don't want Kobe here is because he don't have a plan. What is his plan? Tell me what is it? That's the thing I've been saying from Jump Street. It ain't the fact that, Kobe's a bad GM or, JB is the worst coach in the world. It's they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan of the way they play. They don't have a plan of the way they scout players. They don't have the plan of how they get coaches or what their protocol is. They don't have a plan of developing anybody. You tell me, all you can point to is this. We won more games than 4 people. Everybody else is, we won the most games. At the end of the day, Nick Sabans of the world, Greg Popovich's of the world, don't sit there and say, well, we were only worse than 4 people. You know what they say? That's not acceptable. And the reason why LeBron James consistently holds people to the flames is because some of y'all not built for it. Some of you think 4th is good or 3rd is good. And just because we haven't had traditional success in the city of Cleveland, we were better than the Heat this year. We don't care about that. When you play the game, you play to win. You don't play to come in 5th or 4th or 2nd most or hey, you know what? The quote I hear, since 2014, we've been, no. Did you bring that trophy home? Did you get it? And is JB going to make you closer to get to that trophy? If the answer is no, you can't be emotional. You ain't built for it. Sometimes you got to shake somebody's hands and say, you know what, I appreciate for what you did, but this is where the buck stops. We need somebody to get us higher than that.
Gee, would you agree, though, that there has to be a level of progression? You don't go from 21 wins to an NBA title in 4 years. It's very difficult to do that.
I just saw the Timberwolves do it.
They haven't won anything yet.
But they're in the Western Conference Finals.
They are
Where
in the
we
Western
at?
Let me ask
Conference
y'all
Finals.
this.
But like you just said, don't tell me you finished second.
But listen,
that's not good enough.
I see a superstar. I see a guy that
We have a superstar.
Who?
Donovan Mitchell's not a superstar.
Yes, we got that. But guess what they got? They got 5 other people.
Well,
All right, so let me ask you this.
Cavs roster is very deep.
But to that point, right? Let me ask you this, and this is a little pushback on what you said because I agree with a lot of what you said. But my question I've been asking myself over the last week is it knowing how to assess talent or the development of the talent? And
Well,
this
the
is why I say
development
this.
falls on the coach.
So this is the point I'm trying to make. You can look at the Cavaliers and say the Cavaliers got some pretty nice pieces, right? Karis LeVert is a bucket getter. We didn't see him get 50 in the NBA multiple times, right?
Yes.
A guy that can get his own shot, create off the dribble. Darius Garland. Now, we know Darius Garland what this year was, right? We've seen Darius Garland drop 50. We've seen Darius Garland become an all-star. We've seen Jarrett Allen become an all-star. We know what we have in Donovan Mitchell, right? There are pieces there. The problem is the pieces don't fit. And now I'm asking myself questions like, okay, did Koby Altman identify the talent correctly and JB Bickerstaff just didn't develop it? And this is why. We all sat here last Browns offseason, and we talked about Andrew Berry going shopping and getting Kevin Stefanski the groceries, and it was up to Kevin Stefanski to go in the kitchen and cook up a meal worth eating, right? You can argue Koby Altman did the same thing. Coming into the season, the Cavs lacked shooters. That was our Achilles heel. We didn't have depth on the bench,
got 2 of them.
and we didn't have shooters. So you go out there and you get shooters. Them dudes play horrible for the most part in the playoffs. Is that Kobe assessing it wrong, or is that JB not putting those guys in the right situation to have success? These are questions I'm starting to ask myself.
No, that is the question.
All the above. Why can't
And that's why it's hard for me to say,
But
okay.
see, so I think I'm in agreement with your base point on JB. But here's the thing. If you do fire Kobe, you're now starting over, and you're almost undoing the work that's been done over the last 4 years. Look, no one's happy with the Cavs getting bounced in the second round.
No.
I was most disappointed about their decision to tank. That, to me, was the precursor to a debacle. You want Boston in the second round?
But
good luck with that.
But Jay, I just told you, that goes back to the plan. Who does that?
Well,
You see what I'm saying?
I'm told that was an organizational decision.
So
it wasn't a spur of the moment, in the moment, JB saying, yeah, let's sit everybody.
so-
that was discussed before the game.
So they sat in a room and
Yes,
actually came up with that.
This is what I was told. Organizational decision. So if that's true, and that's the case.
JB said in the post game, me and Mike was there, that the plan coming into the game was to play the main guys for 3 quarters and let the guys who typically don't get no run
That's
play in
exactly
the fourth.
right.
And that is why people have such a nasty taste in their mouth. That's why when we talked about that Hornets game, we talked about it for 3 weeks, because something inside of you don't vibe with that. Something inside of you like, dang, that's kind of...
I hated that decision. Maybe we're the Indiana Pacers right now in the Eastern Conference Finals. Who knows how things play out differently? You don't know.
And when you get a veteran like Marcus Morris, who's a rough rider in this league, that's been around a lot of organizations, when he comes out with a straight face with a baseball cap on, like, yeah, man, I see it. It ran its course. These cats were swimming at the end of the year. They thought that was going to save them. They knew. They said, oh, we got them. We're going to catch Orlando, and the people going to say we won that series, and that's going to save everybody.
I just feel like everything that you're saying, I think you're accurate, but it's more of an indictment on JB than it is Kobe Altman.
And I agree with that. I exactly what you just said. A lot of these decisions in the micro, I put on JB. The fact that Max Strus was able to be so effective in what Miami ran and look like a completely different guy here.
Out of position the whole season.
That's JB.
He was out of position the entire
you're the coach.
season.
Figure out how to use him like Miami did. We have personnel options here.
Don't when you sit down as a manager or a general manager and you talking about different free agents and different guys you're going to bring in, don't y'all sit down with notes and graphs and tape and say, this is the way he's being used here. Let's see if how do you vision him being used here?
I think yes, in theory, yes, but I think every team also does it differently. There are teams, and I'm going to cross sport here. There are teams where the front office is so driving the bus, the manager is handed a sheet at the end of the day and said, make it work. Now, I don't think that's ever going to work. I don't. There is one very, very high-profile Major League Baseball team that does it exactly that way. And I think that is a hindrance to their ultimate success. You have to be hand in glove. I think the Browns are doing that right now, even though I'm not quite sure what Paul DePodesta's role is and what power he has. I think for the most part, everybody sees the point on the horizon in the same spot. I don't know how the Cavs have made those decisions typically, but to answer your question, that's how it should work. Hey, we got a guy. Could Max Strus do here what he did in Miami? That conversation, I hope, was made.
Maybe we have that before.
You better hope it was.
Somebody answered it wrong. Somebody said, "Yeah, we can do that here."
I don't know about y'all. The three biggest negatives to me when it came to Koby Altman, I thought you should have got way more for Kyrie. Here's a move
No, that's
that
a
Mike
valid point.
Here's a move that Mike didn't bring up, and I thought about it during this conversation. That same season, we made some in-season trades before the trade deadline that ironically cleared the path for LeBron to be able to go sign with the LA Lakers.
Sure, we did.
That was a bad move. And three,
But we couldn't have known that at the time.
yeah, maybe, but we knew that the Lakers cap situation was horrible. The third move, and I really feel strong about this, you should have fired JB Bickerstaff last year.
I
you
agree
had
with
a
that.
better pool of coaches to pick from than you did this year. Because
listen,
this year,
I
it's a
agree.
bunch of second-tree dudes or dudes that's unproven commodities.
And again,
when
you know
last
what?
year you had guys like Nick Nurse and Ime Udoka, et cetera. So
The piece of the puzzle we don't have that we desperately need, and I know that there are a lot of different. I've talked to 3 Cavs beat writers within the last 6 days, 5 days, and the message is not the same. What role does Dan currently play in the decision making? And I got 3 different answers.
No one knows. It's the
No
great
one
unknown.
knows. And because of that, and Dan knows, and everybody in the organization likely knows, but Kobe certainly knows. So perhaps Dan is saying, this didn't work out, and that was my move, and I got to wear that. I can't put that on your resume. So ultimately, who's making the call on Kobe? It's Dan.
You
It
know
has
what?
to be.
Jay, you know
Correct?
what I think? Jay,
There's
you
no
know
one
what I
above
think?
him.
There's no one above him.
This is just gut instinct today on Friday, May 24th. I think that a conversation has already been had, and I think that because it was reported by Brian Windhorst that the Cavs plan on offering Spider that deal
Right.
at the conclusion of the NBA Finals. I think a backdoor handshake
Do you
agreement
think it's been done?
has already been done. And I think that's the reason why Koby Altman is still employed, because if Donovan Mitchell was out of here, he'd be out of here. And I think that's the reason why JB Bickerstaff is no longer employed.
Well, Jason Lloyd said
I could be wrong, but that's
No,
what I think.
there's a lot of
Jason
validity
Lloyd
to what
sat
you
here
said.
and said, at the end of the day, you can say you wanted JB gone, or you could give up information to say that you want JB to stay. But at the end of the day, if the players would have said that they wanted JB
still
Bickerstaff,
be
they'd
here.
still be here. So
Yes, you're right about that.
It's not. It ain't on me or whether we think he's the greatest coach. The people that he was coaching in that locker room said, we don't have an opportunity to reach our maximum potential with JB Bickerstaff.
And that's
it.
why I think we're all in agreement that move had to be made.
Yeah.
I do think it was a year too late. I do. I think perhaps the condition of his contract and knowing that he's going to be paid through 26 had something to do with that. The fact that they won 51 games last year probably had something to do with that. But to me, they overlooked the biggest single piece of glaring evidence that said he had to go, and that was what we saw in New York.
I'll paint a picture for you, and for the audience that's out there watching after this show, Google Marcus Moore's post-game conference, Game 5 against Orlando. Okay? Try to paint this as best as I can. Me and Mike covered the Cavs throughout the entire playoffs, every home game. We did pre- and post-game conference, press conferences, right? Marcus Morris came out in his post-game press conference after he balled out in Game 5. And I was sitting right there, and I was reading his body language, and I was just listening to him talk. And he talked about how he was starting to question himself, question why he was here, question a lot of things, because he was under the assumption, I thought the Cavs brought me here because I was a part of the puzzle. I was a piece to the puzzle, and that, you brought me here for this particular time, playoff time. He couldn't understand why it took for an injury to happen for him to see the court.
Yeah.
And he would just allude to different things that he was saying in that press conference. To me, it seemed like little shots at JB Bickerstaff,
Right.
as far as how he was
Well, he
being
confirmed
used,
that with his-
et cetera. And so when I just, seeing that little clip, it kind of was like, this is another nail in the coffin, so to speak, right? There's so much to be said about how the players felt about JB Bickerstaff, from practices, the system or lack thereof that they were running. And it just seemed like his message, man, it started to fall on deaf ears. And when players make the decision collectively that they don't want to play for you, like to me, that's the ultimate death sentence that a coach can have. And so, yeah, Jimmy Donovan might have been right in a lot, but that right there is the bottom line. If the players don't want to play for you,
no, you're right.
That's it.
And the other thing was Jimmy, and part of his argument for keeping JB was his regular season success. And I think we have documented on this show over the last year plus.
Doesn't matter.
That it doesn't mean a hill of beans. You could lose 20 games less than the 1 seed, and all you have to do is win 1 road game in each series, and you're the NBA champ.
This is where my fandom comes in to play all the time. I don't care. When it comes to the Cavs in particular, I don't care about regular season success, and I'm never finna do victory laps because we made it to the second round. All of us here know what it feels like for this franchise to be called NBA champions. Yep. And I get it. Everybody's going to always say, well, LeBron was a part of that. LeBron was a part of it. It is what it is, man. But it's just hard to accept anything less when you know what it feels like to be called champion.
Mike, you want to chime in, and you should.
Yeah, just last thoughts, and then we'll move on to the next domino to fall. Running through all of Kobe's moves, not everything works out. You know, you're going to have some wins, you're going to have some losses.
Well, look at the Guardians, who get it right way more than
you're going to have some home runs, you're going to have some
doubles.
The last
2 years,
singles.
their free agency buys have been an absolute dumpster fire, and they're in first place.
The one thing that did stick out from going through that whole exercise, it's damn near impossible to get free agents to come to Cleveland. Almost all the top-tier talent they've acquired, sent out, either via the draft or via trade, and executing those deals, whether you like some of them, whether they worked, whether they didn't. Even Max Strus, who was the biggest quote-unquote free agent signing they've had in essentially a decade, was via sign and trade.
Minus the LeBron years, maybe ever.
Maybe, yeah, seriously.
Like LeBron was the free agent magnet. Guys want to go win titles. They don't want to come to Cleveland, Ohio, and finish fourth.
And so I just think when we look at his overall tenure, you have to take that with a little bit of grain of salt,
Fair.
knowing you
That's
are
why I
handcuffed
said
in
know
certain
thyself.
aspects.
You're not Boston. You're not L.A. You don't have the luxury of throwing your franchise legacy out there. And also the other thing, too, is, and it's funny, I talk to athletes in all the sports. I think in the NBA more than any other team, more than any other league, because in the NFL, it's not really a factor. Free agents will go where the money is, and everything is fairly equal because there's a salary cap.
It's not guaranteed.
They don't care that they're not playing on the coasts. Baseball players are also okay with not playing on the coast. They want the money. NBA guys know what the money is. It's going to be the same wherever they go. They want location. They want Miami. They want Boston. They want LA. They want New York. They do not want Cleveland, Ohio.
I will give you this, and I'll push back a little bit. When you use that as an organization, Jay says it, you got to know who you are. Well, if you know you're not going to get free agents and it's never been a free agent market, then you damn sure as well better be all in on drafting and all in on development. And if you don't
trades.
And being smart, and if you're not doing that, you can't sit up here and be upset. Well, hey, we're not getting free agents. No, that's not who you are. You're going to have to develop, and you got to put everything you got into that, and you can't miss.
That's why the coaching role is so much more.
You know who had me
fair.
fooled
You're
back in the day?
100% fair.
As we talk about like Max Strus being a big signing, Larry Hughes, man.
Oh,
when the
I know.
Cavs signed Larry Hughes,
he was a music video.
he was in the with Kelly Rowland.
I was like, oh, we got the Kelly Rowland, Lily and Kelly, John Hughes. Oh.
To your point about, because I do make the point that the coasts in the NBA and those prime locations have such a bigger advantage. But I'll also say this: when you look at Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and I'm going to throw San Antonio in there because historically, I don't want them to be looked at as what they are now. There was a time when San Antonio had a dynasty, and they did it how? Because they had Pop. What's going on right now in Minnesota and Oklahoma City? They've got two phenomenal coaches. When you have the coaching piece of it, you can overcome a mistake here or there in a draft or a poor trade. But in a city like Cleveland, you better have an absolute top-line, front-of-the-parade coach to make up for these other deficiencies.
What's the general manager in Philly name? Is this Daryl Morey?
Daryl Morey.
He was in Houston.
Didn't he used to be in OKC at one point?
He
I
may
don't
have been.
think so. No, he's been in Houston for a while.
Who was the guy that was in OKC?
OKC was
It's Presti.
Presti. Yeah,
Shout out
like
to Emerson basketball.
Is he still there?
My God, Sam.
Yeah, he's the best GM in basketball.
You're probably right.
They
And
don't
look
lost.
what they can
So
overcome
to
because
that
of it.
to that point, that's the blueprint. If you're a small market franchise, that's the blueprint. This is a small market franchise that understands I might not be the most attractive destination to free agents.
Right.
So I need to make sure that player development and I have a healthy culture. Scouting, and I have a system here. Right?
He's
That's
an
how
Emerson
small
guy,
market
isn't he?
teams do it.
He is an Emerson guy.
So, Mike, why don't you just step up, become the next Emerson guy to change the NBA?
There are plenty of other Emerson guys in the NBA who will do that way before I do. So
Who?
No, there are a lot out there.
there's 2 GMs right now. Will Dawkins and Washington's an Emerson guy. It's like 6 video coordinators.
The video coordinators, that's the path, isn't it, Mike?
Well, that's the SPO path, yeah.
I mean, if you follow what Spoelstra was able to do, those guys are the guys that are
Miami's video coordinator. Where'd he go to school, Jay?
Emerson.
There you go. All right, let's take a break real quick. Let's start with the next domino to fall for their Cavs after a quick reminder that today's episode would not be able to exist without the help of sponsors like Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a rookie like myself, just looking for a little extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. It's easy to use, easy to digest, and even for a guy who likes sports and is not a money guru like myself, Yahoo Finance makes it super easy to understand what I need to do to reach financial freedom. For a comprehensive financial news and analysis plan, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. So JB Bickerstaff's out. Koby Altman is talking. I think he just wrapped up in a sec. Jason Lloyd's going to join us to give us a live breakdown of what Koby had to say. But I want to ask you guys this. JB's gone, so what's the next domino to fall for the Cavs this offseason? G, you want to start us off?
Well, listen, I think if they were smart, once again, I'm going with have a plan. If you gonna mess around and if you gonna mess around and get rid of JB Bickerstaff and this is what you was gonna do, then you should have already had the backdoor handshake with Donovan Mitchell. Right now, after they come out in a couple of days, they supposed to already, after the finals, that's supposed to have already been dried up, ready to go. And so if you already reading the tea leaves, you got a plan. Now JB is gone, Donovan Mitchell signed. Now you already know what it is. You done already talked to Darius Garland's agent because apparently he doesn't want to be on the team with Donovan Mitchell.
That's
so
the report.
Now you got a plan. Hey, listen, let me talk to your agent. Let's get some different places we want to go to and start lining up with these deals. So as soon as that happens, you're supposed to have Darius Garland with a couple more suitors to figure out. Then you go back and you talk to Jarrett Allen. You said, listen, season over. I'm going to give you an opportunity to calm down a little bit because we still like what you could do. Would you rather be here or no? Because then that's the second domino we're talking about. Figuring out whether Jarrett Allen is going to be on that block or is he going to be here to stay?
Right.
And what we doing.
Can he stay if there were players that questioned his toughness?
Unless it's been publicly done, you can always come back from that.
But it's been reported, and the players publicly didn't say anything.
If it's me and Earl start arguing, and they say publicly, G. Bush and Earl, they ain't been seen together in a while. But they never said anything. I ain't say nothing about his family. He ain't say nothing about my wife.
That.
We can dap that up.
Sure. I love your mama and your daddy, but I ain't finna say nothing bad about them.
We gonna eat birthday cake and it's all good.
We good.
Now he can come back and be good. My thing is, if you get that to come back and you figure out was he more valuable on the roster than off the roster, right? And if you get something good for him, good. If not, oh well. Then the last thing is, within a short frame of time, you got to get a coach in here. And me myself, I agree with what y'all say to a certain extent. I'm not trying to do no learn on the job, cat. I can't do that. I'm not gonna give me. I need Atkinson to be in here to give me because I like what Atkinson was doing before they kind of brought in all the big names. He's had an opportunity to sit amongst some other people now and see what the game is. And I think Atkinson is a guy that got the Nets to play well. I liked what they was doing. If you go back and watch some games with the Cavs, the Nets used to always get the Cavs held back in the day. When they had Dinwiddie and some of them other cats. Jarrett Allen was on that team. So
was Karis LeVert.
So was Karis LeVert. I like Atkinson, and I want to figure out, because and by the way, I like that best right there, Jay. You see who we sitting next to? You see that's that Golden State. I like that Golden State tree. I want that movement.
How much though does the record concern you?
Listen,
Because that's what you are.
Can I push back on the record real quick with Atkinson
Please.
and Borrego?
Yeah.
They took over horrific basketball teams.
I get it.
I mean, bottom of the barrel, horrific.
But what do coaches do?
Well, he got him to the playoffs in year 3.
Develop.
Yeah.
What was his record that year in year 3 when they made the playoffs?
I think it was 42-40.
Weren't they the 7 or 8?
that was the year
Give me
we
one
was
sec.
counting on it. We was counting on their pick, and they kept winning. We wanted.
I know they were, and we were like, damn, they got it.
What's going on?
They
here?
were.
I'll say this about him. I'll
They
say
were
this about
42 and
Atkinson.
40 the year they made the playoffs. Just
They're the
over
last team
500.
in?
No, they were the 7th.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'll say this about Atkinson. The fact that he's on Steve Kerr's coaching staff,
Sure.
I think that's a perfect opportunity to grow as a coach
I
and
like
learn.
that, too.
And this is why I seen this clip of a podcast from John Sally. Everybody remember John Sally,
What you
Hooper
remember?
turned actor, right? And he talked about that the reason why LeBron James don't have more championships is because he never played for a coach that has a system. He alluded to Phil Jackson's triangle offense and how that system won 6 championships in Chicago. He took that same system and won 5 more in LA. Steve Kerr, who played for Phil Jackson, took a variation of that offense and won 4 championships in Golden State.
Right.
A system that he still has in place now. One of the things that we talk about the Cavaliers lacking is a system. I don't know this to be fact, but you would hope that Atkinson has learned how to run that system since he's been on Kerr's staff, and maybe he could bring a variation of that here if he was to get the job.
Yeah, no, I think the tutelage, being under someone like that, is invaluable. I do think that second time around you can have more success because you learn from your mistakes. It's just, it's like throwing darts in the dark. You hope you hit the board, and you hope you get close to the bullseye, but you don't really know because there isn't a longevity track record that's proven success. And let's face it, when have the Cavs ever gone out and hired what I just described? Maybe Mike Fratello, maybe. Like Lenny Wilkins, in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers, go back to Bill Fitch. A lot of these coaches are coming here as entry-level coaches. Same thing with the Browns and same thing with the Guardians. Like with the exception of Tito, we were giving guys their first chances.
Wasn't this Mike Brown's first job?
I think it was Mike Brown's first job. Look at the Browns coaches. The Browns have not gone out and hired, with the exception of some
Eric Mangini.
Hugh Jackson had previous experience. Outside of Hugh Jackson, I name a Browns coach that had a head coaching job before they came here.
The only one I could think of was Mangini.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Romeo Crennel, was this his first job, or he's a coordinator?
He's a
This
coordinator
was
for
Cornell. I think this. Yeah, he came from Bill in New England.
I'll say this because a lot of people will make this comparison. They'll say, well, you know what I'm saying? They'll compare JB Bickerstaff and they'll compare Kevin Stefanski. And I don't believe that's a good comparison because
Why would they compare the two of them?
Well,
because it was their first job.
no, because people were vocal like myself about getting rid of Kevin Stefanski, right?
Yeah. Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're like, well, we wanted to get rid of Kevin Stefanski too, and look how he turned out.
No, I see what you're saying.
The difference is Kevin Stefanski done proved himself twice over.
Sure.
Like you don't get it. Ain't no. He was almost coach of the year. He was that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Twice.
He was that. And the crazy part about it, about expectations, is this has to be said. People say, who do you love? You know, which child do you love the most?
Right. Yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
That's impossible to answer that.
All parents say it's impossible, but you got one.
No, you don't. I don't.
But here's the thing: you love them, but sometimes you can love them the same, but you enjoy being around one of them and the other, and the other one be acting up. I got 2 brothers, and my mom. Guess what? She'll never die on this hill. She ain't never gonna do it. She'll say, "I love you all the most." We already know what it is, Mom. Don't worry about it.
Are you the favorite?
Of course. Like, but hold on. But I put the most work in. I answer that call.
I see what
like
you're
you
saying.
said, when your mom call you and she say something need done.
Yeah, you're there.
That's the responsibility.
I would like to think that my mom would mom would never agree.
I've met his brothers.
Yeah.
He's definitely the favorite.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Because,
no disrespect.
You know, when they met, like they had, you know how brothers joke about brothers.
Yeah, no, that's
they'd be like, "That's your man's. That's your man's right there."
As a parent, I could never form the words on my lips where I say, "I love this child."
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do
Everybody, hey, listen, only God knows when you get in
I'm not
front
gonna do it.
But here's the
Internally, though, you know who your problem child is.
thing. They do. You know who the problem is.
You know who your problem child
I
is.
guess I'm lucky. I only have two, and I don't consider either of them
He good. He ain't
a
gonna
problem
play.
on any level.
But no,
I'm lucky.
But here's the problem we got. It ain't even a problem. It just is what it is. The expectations for the Browns is here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we give the Browns too much grace, and we kill them too much because guess what?
Because we're fans.
That's your heart. So when you get down to the Cavs have no room for playing around. Like the Guardians have no room for playing around. Like we will get mad at them in a heartbeat. If the same thing happened to the Browns, we would be like, man, come on, man, that ain't nothing, or we gonna brush over that. But when this stuff happened with the Cavs,
But it go back to your opening analogy, right? Like it's a saying out here. Women say it a lot now. I'm the one, not the two.
Yeah.
In Cleveland, the Browns is the one, not the two. And when they the one, when your heart kind of like flutters differently for the Browns, you're willing to give them more grace. But because the Cavs is the two and the Guardians is the three,
I'm the other way around. With the Browns, I have, like you said, I have higher expectations and different. But think about what Kevin Stefanski has done, guys. Not only has he been Coach of the Year twice and made the playoffs twice, he's used 6 different quarterbacks to do it.
and he still ain't got no extension.
And he can't get an extension in this city.
He can't get a deal. He can't even get a
No deal. We still. He's like, I gotta prove it.
When can we start being concerned? Because the organization is like, oh no, and everybody that covers the team, oh no, it's just dotting the I's, crossing the T's. I'm concerned.
I asked about this last Sunday. I said, any updates? They said, no updates.
It almost to me feels like Kevin's playing the game of chicken.
But that's the reason.
I wouldn't blame him if he did.
And a lot of people, and I'm gonna reach out. A lot of people say, listen, sometimes they reach out to us and they be like, well, y'all be the way you on us right now. Let me show you the record. Let me show you what we did. And I keep trying to tell them one thing Earl says. We done won the championship. We done already had LeBron. We done already been at the peak.
We know what it's like.
We know what it feels like. So we won it again. Second of all, when you went and got Donovan Mitchell, that sped your track up.
Yeah.
If Donovan Mitchell's not on this team, JB Bickerstaff is still here.
Because the expectations
would never even be that high.
No, you're probably right about that. And Donovan wouldn't be here to run them out.
So if y'all could have came in sixth and we wouldn't have cared.
Back to the Kevin Stefanski thing for one thing. We just stumbled upon it. But I always think worst case scenario and best case scenario. Worst case scenario for the Browns, he plays chicken. He doesn't blink. He doesn't sign. His contract expires and he goes to Pittsburgh.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to end this before you
They
piss
better
off
lock
anyone
that
else,
up.
'cause I don't even want to imagine that scenario ever being
Worst
realistic.
case scenario. That's how I make big decisions.
Watch the chat because they about to go after Jay bad.
I'm not even
Be
going to look
prepared.
at that.
Prepare yourself for the worst case scenario.
crazy.
And then nothing will surprise you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Speaking of the Browns, we're going to pivot to some Browns talk as we wait for Jason to join us. After a quick reminder that eBay Motors combines passion, drive, and patience into a winning formula to win championships, which is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home some big wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We'll get Jason on once he's ready, but before that, the Browns are underway at OTAs. Some guys haven't shown up. That's not surprising. It's voluntary. They don't have to. But one name that did surprise me who wasn't there was Elijah Moore. It's a new offense. Deshaun Watson's back. He's in a contract season. Were you guys surprised Elijah Moore wasn't in attendance for OTAs? Do you care, or is this an absolute non-factor?
I don't care. I stopped dying on this hill last year. I'm gonna give this football player some grace.
All right.
I want to believe that professionals, that they have their own system, that they have a plan in place, that they have somewhere that they're training at during said times, that he might feel more comfortable. He might have a college or a high school coach that he feels like can get the most out of him in said situations. I'm not going to press the issue too much. I think that he has the new playbook. I'm pretty sure conversations has been had. I think that when it comes to install, anything that's mandatory, I believe he'll show up for it. But this is optional. And so because it's optional, I'm not going to kill him too much. I am going to have a little bit of faith that the man is working hard elsewhere. He's training elsewhere, and he's getting ready for this upcoming season elsewhere.
Man, when I used to grow up, man, you'd be like, all right, man. You ever see somebody that you like that be in a long distance relationship, their boyfriend live in like California, but you be right here, you be like, oh, I'm about to steal his time. I'm gonna still. Hey, listen, what you doing later on? We need to go study. Like, after a time, like time is the ultimate equalizer, right? Now look, I'm Mr. Who cares who coming to camp, right? Miles Garrett, one defensive player a year. Who cares, right? Now listen, I could care if you leave or do whatever you want, as long as you come back and do your thing. I think you're a professional. But I will say this, I mean, you can't say David Bell ain't like, I'm glad you didn't show up.
Cedric Tillman's out there making catches.
Cedric Tillman out there looking big paws, looking real like, you know what I'm saying, like he been in the weight room. Thrash is like, well, look, man, I mean, I could come out here and give me a couple of like, they looking at your spot, dog. They're looking at, and it ain't me. I don't care what you do. But them, if they rookies, you know they telling their people when they get on the phone, hey, dog, yeah, Elijah Moore ain't even here. I'm learning all the
I talked about this yesterday. Michael Woods was another one. This is a dude that was a rookie, 6th-round pick. The Browns felt like he was a diamond in the rough in 2022. He was working with Deshaun Watson last year when he tore his Achilles, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a dude who knows, he don't have too many opportunities left to try to earn a roster spot. And you get an opportunity to get out here and go against the ones, and get some reps in. I get that from that standpoint, but I think we, at least at this point, we know who wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 is. So,
and he's not in it.
Know thyself, and he didn't know. Hey. Elijah Moore. You know that you on a contract here. You know that, right? They putting in new stuff.
For now. They
putting in some new stuff too. And all 3 quarterbacks is out there. You need to get a report with at least one of them.
You are kidding.
You need to be out there with at least Jameis Winston, dog. Don't do it to yourself.
I think I'm with you guys in that I'm not going to die on the hill. I'm not going to scream and rant. But I will say that we're currently on day 24 of the month of May. And nobody's going to get cut today.
Nope.
But when we get to the 24th of August, there will be 53 guys standing. Mm-hmm. And I have had many conversations with coaches and general managers that have been in the rooms when these decisions are discussed. And what always comes up for 42 through 53, effort. And he doesn't get to check that box right now. He's not doing himself any favors. As an organization, I'm sure the Browns are looking at it and saying, interesting choice. Now, maybe he's hearing the comments reverberating from last year because they said it every week. We love our receiver room. We love it. Well, if I'm Elijah Moore and I'm making daily decisions on my future, the one decision that I don't even have to sit down and think about is, I'm going to be there. Because if you're not present, you're absent.
Tyvus sat here and said yesterday that even though it's not mandatory, the team will hold it against you.
Well, listen, let me tell you something. The joke about OTAs forever has been you say OTAs with a wink. Mm-hmm. I've had head coaches tell me that. Oh, yeah, we can't mandate that they be here. They're voluntary.
Can you hear Kevin Stefanski now? getting this team together. Yeah, so the NFL said this is voluntary. I want y'all to let y'all know that
technically it is.
Yeah, but
So,
can you hear the message? The NFL said this is voluntary, and I want you all to know that the NFL said that you have the option to come up or not.
But you know what time it is.
But you know if you one of the players that don't got to show up and the ones that do. Like you
Myles
know
Garrett,
that.
I'm good with. Joel Bitonio, fine. Now, there's difference to be. I think you set an example by showing up.
Yeah,
I just think you do. Tom Brady recently was on a podcast. I don't know if you guys saw the clip, but he talked about why the biggest difference between today's players in the NFL and his version. And there's similarities and differences in both time eras. But he said, you're not going to win a championship on social media. I've said that nonstop forever here. And in the course of delivering that message, because he was asked, what's the difference between today and when you came in? And he said something that really resonated with me. He said, every day was my Super Bowl. Practice was my Super Bowl. That was my opportunity to learn something and to be the best I could be. I played every preseason game I ever played in like it was a Super Bowl. And you know why I did it? Because when I got to the Super Bowl, I already knew what it was going to feel like. Think about how smart that is. Pretend that everything is at the highest possible DEFCON 10 level it can reach. Mm-hmm. And then when you really are faced with DEFCON 10, you're like, I got this. I got it. I had it in May 24th. I had it in July 15th. I had it in August 9th.
That's why OTAs are not optional for quarterbacks. Every quarterback goes.
If you're a quarterback and you don't show up,
every quarterback,
you're not a starting quarterback.
Like every quarterback shows up. So like that's already put to bed. But here's another thing too. Like I always thought about this, and it's just like when you get new coaches and you get one year all our coaching staff got fired. We had a whole nother coaching staff. So as an older player, you're like, oh, well, I used to be able to, like, I got Tuesdays off. Not no more. Oh, I used to be like, you know what I'm saying? I could, in this drill, I could come in third or something. It's okay. Not no more, because you got a new set of eyes in front of you. And he should be worried not about Kevin Stefanski. They should be worried about Dorsey.
It's a new offense.
He might.
And Dorsey don't play.
And
Dorsey don't play.
I want to be there so they could create some plays for me. Hey, I want to put Elijah right over here. Put Elijah in motion right here. I think I'm going to use that to get Elijah during the season. I like this play.
Hey, G, did you see Jerry Jeudy was in the backfield on the first day of OTAs?
I did.
Which
heard that.
If you go back to last year, that was Elijah Moore's spot. I don't want to die on a hill with this. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But just because it's a brand new offense, he's in a contract year. They brought in Jerry Jeudy for your technical
You are highly
spot.
Expendable.
I just think it would have made sense, and I'm surprised he isn't. But
I'm gonna live. I live at Dorsey's house. I'll be at the house. Listen.
Can I pick up your groceries?
Yeah. What we doing? Me and Deshaun Watson. That's if you're a receiver, the two people you gotta love the most is the play caller and the guy that's throwing you the football.
Yeah.
And if you not under, like, some people just like people, right? Like some people just be like, that's my guy. And you don't know why. You might not be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. They just got a rhythm, and you develop a chemistry, and that's my guy. And Tom Brady, listen, all the people
look at who his guys were.
Yeah. They
never jumped off the chart. Ever.
Nobody, and he dang near put him in the Hall of Fame.
And neither, by the way, did Tom Brady didn't jump off any charts. See draft day picture or combine picture.
Man, Edelman and Welker.
It's about what's in here, and you prove what's in here by at least showing up. Be present. Yeah. Don't be absent.
He had Deion Branch out there looking like he was him.
Deion Branch? I mean, come on, man.
Listen,
Deion Branch won a Super Bowl MVP.
Amendola.
Yeah, he was.
The list of guys that he turned into superstars who, by the way, parlayed in that into huge free agent contracts and went somewhere else and flopped miserably. Yeah. That list is long.
Speaking of showing up, Jay.
Just show up.
Speaking of showing up, the Guardians have showed up almost every single night this season. If you've been betting on Guardians games with FanDuel, you probably have made a lot of money. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL right now. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Jason's going to hop on in about 8 minutes, but we'd be remiss not to talk about this upcoming road stretch and then home series before the Guardians host the Royals to start the month of June in what should be a massive AL Central matchup. Guardians are red hot right now. They hit the road against the Angels and the Rockies, 2 teams they should be able to handle. Then they come back and take on Washington here at Progressive Field. Jay, I think we all expect the Guardians to keep up this hot play on the road, but what do you need to see from this team over the next 9 games to help prepare them for this massive matchup with the Royals to start the month of June?
They need to go 5-4 at worst. I'd like to see them go 6-3. These are bad teams. You got to win the games against bad teams, and you've got to have a above 500 record against the contenders in your division. Mm-hmm. That's how you make the playoffs every year. That's what the Guardians and Indians have done over the last decade plus. And there's no reason why they can't win 5 of 4 or 5 of 9. And I think it's doable that they could win 6 of 9, and anything more than that is icing on the cake. Momentum in baseball is tomorrow's starting pitcher. That we've all heard that. But what's fascinating to me is how, and if you're old enough to remember the 90s Braves teams, they were able to slingshot it because they all had a competition amongst themselves. Oh, you gave up 5 hits and 1 run? Watch me go out and pitch a 4-hit shutout. They all motivated one another. So that made perfect sense. Like, momentum is tomorrow's starting pitcher. Well, in Major League Baseball, that is absolutely the truth. But you can also build momentum in other ways. And they're doing that. What have they won? 7 in a row?
I believe it's 6 in a row, 9 of 10.
They won everything on their homestand. They're playing great baseball. They get Quan back in less than 2 weeks. He's been the catalyst. They were able to figure out how to put wins together. It took them a while without Quan. So it's huge. I mean, you got to win the games against the bad teams. Don't come back with a 4-5 or worse record over the next 9, because you want to come into that Kansas City series, which is by far the biggest series that they've played, will have played so far this year. You want to come in with all the momentum in the world. You got the home crowd. You come in off a 6-3 road trip, fans will be lining up at Progressive Field to watch that Royals series.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, Jay, they kind of played down to the Chicago White Sox.
I thought they did too.
When we ended up losing that series. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as they started playing relevant competition again, it seemed like they were locked right back in. I'm with you. You got to finish this road trip above 500. I think the thing that I would like to see is the sustained dominance by the Cleveland Guardians bullpen. Hey, check this out real quick. Right now, throughout the season, the Guardians bullpen has an ERA of 2.52, first in the majors. Walks per 9 innings, they've allowed at least 2.6, first in the majors. Home runs per 9 innings, 0.48, first in the majors. They got 17 wins, 18 saves. The saves is first in the majors. The wins is tied for second in the majors. This bullpen has been dominant to where traditionally we're used to the starting pitching being dominant. And I think if they can sustain that bullpen dominance and we still get what we've been getting from the offense and from the starting pitching, then we should be okay on this 9-game road trip, come home, set ourselves up for what should be a very exciting series against the Kansas City Royals.
Here's what scares me about your stats. They're also first, second, third, and fourth in appearances. They're relief pitchers. Mm-hmm. We're riding the brakes off of them. Now, I don't blame Stephen Vogt. He has to. His starting pitchers are giving him 4 and 5 innings. Mm-hmm. So when your starters aren't going deep into games, someone's got to eat those innings. And unfortunately, the percentage of innings that have been taken up by the bullpen may actually exceed or be real close to the number of innings that have been taken up by starters. That's a problem.
And the only reason
they get tired when you do that, and you fade when you do that. Your bullpen has to be at its best in October if you're going to win. Has to be. We saw that in 16.
The only reason that they're where they are is because, I hate to give it to Tyvus. I think they're right in the middle of the pack, 11th or 12th in home runs.
That's stunning. Tyvus called that too.
And if you just say, we all looked at him like he was crazy when he said that. But that 11th and 12th in home runs has kept you.
But didn't he say they'd finish top 5? It was something nuts.
Tyvus said top 15. He just said top 10.
Okay, top 15. Well, that's not crazy.
Well, they're in it right now. If it ended today,
So I think you still got to keep the bats going. You still got to, when you get Quan back at the top of the order, I think you're gonna be golden. And I'm with Bull. You got to find some places for Fry. You got to find.
He's an everyday player.
He's an everyday player at this point. You need to pivot. I know you was trying to go young with Bo Naylor. Bo might catch, start hitting here later. But you got to have it when a guy comes off the bench and he's pinch hitting, and he hit home runs in pinch hitting, you know he's ready to go. You
He
know
is
a guy
ready.
is seeing the ball really
Opposite
good.
field home runs.
Right.
I've seen him do that twice this year.
Can't even fool him right now.
Jose Ramirez rarely does that.
Where else can he play? Catcher, first base. Where else can you
Outfield,
put him?
he's
Outfield?
very versatile. You can move him around, but I couldn't agree with what you said more. I think the number one priority for this team moving forward, outside of starting pitching, is getting David Fry a slot in the lineup every single day. Now, if that comes at the detriment of Bo Naylor's progression, I'm okay with that. Here's what scares me about Bo Naylor. A light has to go off at some point. When is it supposed to go off? He's had a lot of major league at-bats, and he's not hitting like we need him to hit. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if the organization moves on from him and trades him and tries to rely on Fry as an everyday catcher. That would stun me if they did that. I don't think they will. But at some point, there's going to have to be a difficult decision made where the Guardians say, we love you, Bo, but we're going to send you down and let you work on a couple of things. And then you give the everyday spot to David Fry, who, by the way, this was a conversation in our chat room a couple of days ago. I'm not convinced that David Fry can sustain this long-term either.
I mean, what is he, 27, 28?
He's 28, I believe. But what I mean by that is baseball is a game of adjustments.
Right.
They haven't made the adjustments on him yet. They will. How will he respond to those adjustments? Can he make adjustments to their adjustments? And that's what concerns me. All these guys are great hitters. Austin Hedges is a major league hitter, but he's got holes in his swing. And people have found out what it is. And he sees a lot of down and out sliders because that's his weakness. He can't get it. So it's a prove it game. Prove you can hit this, and we'll stop throwing it.
How much? Let me see if I can frame this right. So Stephen Vogt was a catcher, right?
Yes.
Bull alluded to the fact that I think Bo Naylor is number one in pitch framing, and all
He's
of
very
Major
good.
League.
He's very, very good at that.
When you talk about a guy like that and who's struggling at the plate but seems to be providing something defensively, and then you have your manager that played that same position, how much does that kind of go into the back and forth for just helping him develop as a
That's
as
a great question, Earl. Historically, the days of Johnny Bench are gone.
Okay.
The days of offensive catchers being a bonus on offense, they're just few and far between. Sandy Alomar isn't walking through that door tomorrow.
Mike Piazza is done.
Mike Piazza. The days of all of this rich production from the catcher position, it's just not there anymore. Now, two reasons for that. Bryce Harper came up as a catcher. The organization wisely realized we can get him for 8 years or we can get him for 20 years. Now, granted, he's moved on from the Nationals, but the reason I bring that up is because a lot of great catchers that can hit like that are too valuable to blow their knees out in 8 years from catching every day. So they move them to right field. They move them to first base. They move them to third base so they can have career longevity and they can play every day because catchers can't play every day.
Right.
They play 5 games a week usually. So it's ultimately up to the organization. Are we willing to sacrifice the offensive production to get the plus defensive stats that this catcher brings us? Why is Austin Hedges still in the league? Because he can catch, and pitchers love him, and he's a good clubhouse guy.
And he's willing to blow his knees out.
And he's willing to catch whenever they ask him to. It's crazy, but that's what it comes down to. Now, Stephen Vogt is perfectly positioned to make this call. Whatever he decides, I trust, because this is a crossroads. Is it going to be Bo Naylor, and you're going to sacrifice the offense and get the extra defense, or is it going to be a guy like David Fry that will have a pass ball here and there and will not be the defensive catcher that others are, but he's going to provide pop and on base like no other catcher can?
We have Jason Lloyd. A quick reminder, if you're in the chat, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It costs $0, helps us up a lot. And now we welcome in Jason Lloyd, who's standing outside the Cavs practice facility in Independence. I almost said Berea. Beautiful shot, beautiful day, Jason. And you just listened live to Koby Altman's end-of-season press conference. What was your big takeaway from Koby Altman's comments about how the Cavs season ended and JB Bickerstaff's dismissal?
I think Kobe's taken a lot of tap dance lessons in his life because he did everything he could to not explain why he had to fire the coach without saying why he had to fire the coach. It was funny to hear him. He said, you don't make a conference semifinal and say this doesn't work, but they fired the coach. He said, you can't say this wasn't a successful season, and they fired the coach. So it kind of ran a little contradictory. The reason, it's the players. And, we talked about it on the show yesterday. He lost the locker room. And it's funny, Marcus Morris, I guess today, came out and said basically that.
He did.
Sham said, did you guys play that? Did you play it on the
We've
Running
all
Back
heard
podcast?
it. We haven't played it.
We talked about it. We didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was there. So it just stands to reason, everything that we reported, which we already knew was true, he just confirmed it all. So that's why they had to move on from him, even though Kobe can't really come out and say that.
Jason, you and I had a brief conversation yesterday, and the one thing that we talked about was that the organization had to be very careful with how they handle this, because Donovan Mitchell may wake up one day and say, you guys outed me. You guys should have had my back. And that was stuff that was internal laundry, and it got out, and I'm not happy, and I'm leaving. That's why Kobe did the tap dancing or the tap dancing performance that he did today, correct?
Yeah, I actually put it on the tee for Kobe and said, did Donovan's contract status and did his views have any impact on this decision? And I felt it was an opportunity for Kobe to say, he said no. That's all he said. He just said no. And I kind of put it on the tee for him. It was for all the trouble that me and the Athletic has caused for you, here's an opportunity. You can dunk on me. You can hit it down the fairway. And he didn't really take it, because I thought that was a good opportunity for him to come out and say, this was my decision. Donovan has nothing but respect for JB. He's played the best basketball of his career under JB. This was my decision and my decision alone. And instead, he just answered it no, which is fine.
He's basically
he can answer however he wants.
He's basically picking his poison there, right? He's damned if he does. Either way, you can be critical of him.
No, I just thought there was a way to be a little bit stronger in defending Donovan on that. Ultimately, everything we're hearing is he will re-sign. He is going to re-sign. We won't know that for certain until July. So you have to navigate this coaching search now. Obviously you're going to probably want his input on that. And the one thing Kobe did say today is at his exit meeting, Donovan kept talking about the future, which obviously is an encouraging sign. Doesn't mean he's for certain staying, but certainly that's a positive, not a negative, that he's talking about a future here. And everything that we've been told for the last number of weeks is that he probably is going to resign.
Jason, did Koby Altman allude to the reason why it took 8 or 9 days to actually finally move on from JB Bickerstaff? And did he speak to what that conversation was like with JB once they actually had it?
Didn't really go into details what the conversation was like. They never really do. He pointed out the logistics of the fact that, Kobe was trying to bounce back and forth between Chicago and Boston during the conference semis for the combine. And then there was the pro workouts in LA with a bunch of the agencies that rep a bunch of the top draft prospects. They gather in LA. So Kobe had been in LA most of this week after the Cavs were eliminated for that. So logistically it was hard. And he said, he didn't want it to be an emotional decision. And he talked about the deep respect that he has for JB and the entire organization had. And it felt like, it's not a decision that you can make emotionally in the moment, that they needed to step back and have conversations with JB about it, which they did, and then come to a conclusion from there. So it probably, it definitely went a little bit longer than I thought it would by a couple of days. I kind of thought it was going to be a little bit earlier in the week, but because of the logistics of Kobe being out in LA, I kind of understood it as well.
Jason, you had a gut feeling on this a couple of days ago. What's your gut feeling on Darius Garland? It feels like, is that the next move to on the front, or is it Jarrett Allen, or did he allude to any other players on the roster besides Donovan Mitchell?
Kobe was adamant that he does not see a reason to break this up and to make any moves, and we talked about that on the show. I had said that that's what I had gotten prior to Game 7 of the Orlando series was, hey, even if we lose this series, we're bringing this back. We want to bring this back as is. Now, other people may have thoughts outside of that. I stand by the reporting that we wrote last week that if Donovan re-signs, Rich Paul may have a conversation with Kobe about trying to get Darius out of here. And so, where does that lead? Does that lead to Koby saying, no, we're not trading him? He's under contract and we're keeping him. We like him. He's a valuable piece to what we do. Koby rolled out all the advanced numbers today of they're a net positive of around 5 between the two of them when they're on the floor together, Donovan and Darius. In terms of the front court, he defended Jarrett as you would expect him to and said he could not play through what he experienced, that he had a fractured rib. It went from a contusion to today they called it a fracture. And then he went back to pierced on the language. So the language, it is what it is. But, again, we wrote last week about how there was just people who were frustrated and felt like Jarrett didn't do everything possible to get back on the court. And Marcus Morris today said the exact same thing. Marcus, on that same podcast that Shams was on and Chandler Parsons was on, Marcus, who just got here in March, said if it were him, he would have played. And they knew that he was in pain. And they understood because of the Orlando series. Marcus understood because of, the pain he was in during the Orlando series. But Marcus was a little bit surprised that he couldn't come back for the Boston series. So again, everything that we wrote was true, guys.
No, we didn't. I didn't doubt any of it.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you guys.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying
Jason,
when you hear some of this stuff, you're like, wow, how can that possibly be true?
No,
well, it was.
Well, it's all been proven to be true. I have a question for you before we let you go. We chewed on this topic. Koby is staying, or he wouldn't have had this news conference today. He was one of the questions going into the offseason. Did Dan make the right call in bringing Koby back? Had he done enough to deserve another year?
Koby's done a nice job of drafting and developing pieces that are talented basketball players. Whether or not they all fit, he's adamant that they are or they deserve more time together. And we'll see how the rest of the offseason plays out. We'll see if they do try and get Darius out of here, if his representation tries to force a move to get him out and how the Cavs respond to that. We'll see how Jarrett responds to some of the, our reporting and now hearing what Marcus said on the podcast. That can be damaging to a player. And Koby said there's no damage to the relationship between Jarrett and the organization. So, we'll see. But, Dan is not Dan anymore. I've said it a million times. This is not the same Dan of the championship years and pre-stroke, so everybody gets a lot longer of a leash than they used to, which is not a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I just thought that they moved on from people too quick, and the volatility around here was just asinine, frankly. So I think Koby will have an opportunity now to see this through. And depending on, I think this is a critical summer. I'm not convinced that all 4 of these pieces will be back next year. I don't think it behooves him to say that. It takes away negotiating leverage if you come out and say, we probably have to make a move here.
Yeah,
that's right.
Do that.
And so you have to stay strong in negotiations. You have to create as much leverage as you can. I understand him saying everything he had to say. I thought he did his best to protect the organization. It was just funny. We fire the coach and then say that it was a successful season. Well, most successful seasons wind up with coaches sticking around. So he had some dancing to do, but ultimately he was just trying to protect the organization today. And the summer will bear out. We'll let all this stuff play out over the summer.
Yeah.
We'll see if Darius is still here in September. We'll see if Jarrett is still here in September. We'll see the contract that Evan Mobley signs, if he signs an extension this summer, what that looks like. There's a lot of questions facing this organization.
It's going to be an eventful offseason. We're chasing our 12:30 WKYC slot. So 5 seconds here. On a 1 to 10, how much are your shoulders burning from doing the pass off?
Yeah, I seen.
Believe it or not, I do work out, but it's been a challenge, guys. I need a tripod.
Much respect, bro. Much respect, man.
See you, brother.
That arm was shaking.
All right, guys.
Get it?
I've been there. That's why I was able to ask that
Hey, real quick,
question.
because I know Mike said he got super chats. Last Sunday, I had Chris Fedor from Cleveland.com on the show, on the radio with me. Chris Fedor said that there was a strong possibility that the core 4 all returns.
That's interesting to me. I with Jason, I don't think that they will.
I don't either.
But I also think that Koby can't say anything but that, he looks desperate when he goes to make a deal. He's got to let teams come to him for Jarrett Allen or Darius Garland. Because if he starts making those phone calls, word's going to get out. They're moving him, and they're desperate.
They will. I think they will. I think teams will call.
All right.
We got some super chats. We got 4 from Charles T today, and they're all kind of similar. So I'm going to read these all as one, and we can react to Charles T super chats as a group before we get to the last 2 afterwards. But this first 4 are all from Charles T. Charles says, a coach's job is to improve the team each year. JB did that. He did it while Garland and Spider were hurt. The whole team riddled with injuries. Boston team is better and healthier no matter the coach. Did you see Chandler Parsons' reaction over the last 2 years? Boston, Denver, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia are the only teams with more wins than Cleveland. But sure, let's fire our coach for an unproven commodity, because what has Spider done in the NBA? Team went to the second round. Why are we talking about blowing things up? Reminds me of everyone trying to run Stefanski out of town for not calling a timeout. If it was just JB, why is Garland asking out if Spider comes back? He didn't say if JB comes back, I'm out. So big picture, it looks like he's saying, I think we're all overreacting to wanting JB.
Yeah, and to his point, and Jim Donovan made this point yesterday, the coach had the starting lineup, the projected starting lineup, for 28 games out of the 82 on the.
All right, so don't nobody think it's weird the fact that this team was always better when somebody was hurt? Nobody thinks that's weird at all. The fact that you got all these core pieces and you as the head coach couldn't find a way to make all four of these guys like mesh together when everybody was healthy, that you only had success when people was hurt?
That's what undid him. The 17-1 stretch with a makeshift lineup set him up to be fired.
I just think that's weird.
Because you could never recreate that magic. You were well below 500 from that point on. I think they were 18 and 23.
Well, you could talk
something
about
like that.
Everybody talks about the big picture with JB Bickerstaff. No one refuses to drill down on the microscopic points. His offense, his lack thereof, any creativity on offense besides the pick and roll. And when you play good teams in the playoffs, when they can scout for you, you're not getting anything. The fact you got blown out 3 times on the road, you was down 20 to Orlando. To be really realistically truthful, if you ask yourself, if they brought JB back and everybody else on the team and all the concession stand, are they better than Boston? Are they better than Philadelphia? Are you better than Miami? Are you better than the Knicks? Are you better than the Pacers? You're not better than any of those teams. And how are you going to do that when you're outmanned with guys who call in the plays?
6-11 in the playoffs. That was it.
And you're not playing the 8th seed. You're playing the top 4 seeds that are above you that we have less wins than. Everybody keeps saying we're 4th. Well, yeah, you play those guys in the playoffs too.
But you know what? That's another point to what you said to start this show. Like super chats like that, and appreciate the super chat. But it's so easy to bog down on everything being on Donovan. The way the narrative has been put out there, we're going to get a lot of that.
We have one more super chat.
One more super chat real quick comes from Brody's Bottom Line. He says, Jay, name one free agent that Boston got that's helping him. Help you out. It's Al Horford. We got to wrap up.
Yeah, like what there was, like they don't have Al Horford?
Porzingis?
Like that counts.
Mike is crazy with the one-liners, man.